Canto 7 of the Kumarasambhavam. On the auspicious day when the moon, lord of plants, waxing, moved into the seventh house, Himalaya with his kinsmen gathered round him, performed the initial rites in the ceremony of marriage of his daughter. As groups of matrons of the city, out of affection, became engrossed in getting ready in every house auspicious articles for the marriage rites, the city and the palace on the mountain appeared to become a single home and family. Flowers of Shatunaka strewn on the royal highway, rows of flags of the silks of China flying high, golden arches blazing with dazzling splendor. The city gleamed like the world of eternal light transplanted on earth. Though the children they had were many, Uma alone, who was soon to be given away in marriage, became to her parents their very life's breath. As if seen after long parting, or returned raised from the dead, she moved from one embrace to another, as a benediction was pronounced in turn, and jewel after jewel was gifted. The affections of the mountain's family, though distributed among the kin, now went forth to her as to a single home. At the hour sacred to the sun, when the hair-marked moon entered the 12th mansion to unite with Uttarafalguni, those of her kinswomen who had husbands living and sons commenced the ritual of anointing her body. She made more beautiful the musk-scented cloth that she wore for the ritual of anointing with oil, its beauty enhanced further by green durva shoots and white mustard seed ornamenting it, and the arrow she held in her hand. The touch of the new ceremonial arrow, consecrated, made the young girl glow like the new moon's pale crescent, brightening at the close of the dark fortnight, when the radiant ray finger of the sun enkindles it. Dusted with lodra powder to remove the oil from her skin, tinged gold by the partly dry paste of sandalwood, the women wrapped around her a cloth right for being bathed, and led Uma to a 4-pillared sunken bath. Its floor, paved with slabs of lapis lazuli, was inlaid in intricate patterns of pearls. There they bathed Uma, pouring water from jars of gold, while pipes sounded auspicious music. Bright, flawlessly pure after her ritual bath, and dressed in fresh wedding garments, she shone like the rich earth, gleaming, rain-sprinkled and mantled in full-blown kasha blossoms. Chaste women, winding their arms round Uma, then led her to a seat under a canopy, raised on 4 jeweled pillars, at the midpoint of which was the altar where the sacred fire was kindled. Seating that slender girl facing east, the women delayed for some time, sitting before her, the adornments ready beside them, their eyes charmed by the vision of beauty in its pristine state. Her gorgeous mass of hair, dried by the smoke of incense, had flowers folded within it, and tied by a woman with a string of pale yellow maduka blossoms and green durva shoots into a charming chignon. They smoothed cream of white aloe all over her body, and drew on it designs in yellow and gold pigments. And she glowed in beauty, surpassing triple-streamed Ganga, gleaming with sandy banks dotted with chakravaka birds. Framed in charming curls, the splendor of her face outshone the glory of a lotus with bees clinging, or of the moon's bright orb fringed by wisps of cloud, so that all talk of comparisons was cut short as vain. The barley shoot placed at her ear held all eyes captive, and appeared to greatest advantage against her cheek, translucent from the Lodra's bracing lotion, enhancing the brilliant pale gold Gorochana. The lower lip of that girl so exquisitely formed, a line dividing it in the middle, its redness heightened by a touch of beeswax, and pulsing expectant of the fruit of its charm soon to come. Ah, how indescribable! When a friend, having tinted her feet with laksha juice and blessed her, said laughing, "With this foot may you touch the moon on your lord's head," without a word, Uma struck her with a garland. Seen as her eyes were exquisitely lovely, as the petals of some fine blue lotus, the women adorning Uma applied the collyrium not to enhance their brilliance, but only because it was an auspicious mark to put on the bride. Like a vine burgeoning with blossoms, like the night when stars are rising, like a stream on which chakravakas are gliding, she gleamed wondrous as they adorned her with jewels. And gazing at herself so gorgeous in the mirror's oval, Uma, of long eyes, stilled, could hardly wait for Shiva's arrival. To be seen by her beloved is a woman's reward for adorning herself, is it not? Picking up the moist pace of auspicious oars, yellow and red with her fingers, the mother, Mena, raised her daughter's face adorned by a pair of fine ivory ear ornaments. And somehow she managed to mark Uma's forehead with the symbolic bridal mark that gave shape to the wish that had first risen in her mind, and then grown and swelled with her daughter's swelling breasts. With her sight blurred by welling tears, Mena then fastened the ritual bracelet of woven wool on the bride's wrist, but at the wrong place, so that it had to be adjusted by the nurse to occupy its rightful place. Holding in her hands a new mirror, and invested in fine new silks, Uma wore the measureless glory of the foam-mantled shores of the primal milky ocean, or the autumnal night holding the full moon. The mother, knowing what rites had to be performed, instructed her daughter, the family's joy and support, to bow to the household divinities duly worshipped, and then in due order at the feet of virtuous women. Uma, bending low to them, was blessed in turn by each one with the words, "May you have your husband's undivided love." She, however, left her loving kinswoman's blessings far behind when she appropriated half of the Lord's own body. The mountain, urbane and skilled in protocol, having left nothing befitting his wealth and his wishes undone, then sat in his hall of audience, attended by his kinsmen, awaiting the arrival of the bull-bannered Lord. Meanwhile, on Kailash, Kubera's peak, the 7 mothers, devout, set before Shiva, chastiser of the cities, adornments befitting his marriage, a marriage the likes of which had never been witnessed before. Out of regard for them, the Lord of the universe merely touched that wealth of auspicious adornments, for the very same articles he had on his person were now transformed into adornments fit for a bridegroom. Mere ashes became the fragrant powder of white aloe. The skull itself gained the splendor of a brilliant crest. His mantle of elephant hide became a fine silk garment with designs painted on its borders in yellow. The eye, set in the middle of his forehead, and ensconced within it the fiery pupil, tawny as a flame, served as the golden tilaka, the auspicious mark of marriage, and looked fine indeed. Only the bodies of the serpent lords twined round his person changed in shape to ornaments adorning the proper parts. Their hoods, in which were embedded lustrous gems, still remained gleaming, unchanged. Why would Shiva need a diadem for his hair already illuminated continually by the moon that sheds his brilliance even by day, undiminished by the dark spot on his orb, because he is a crescent? He, the sole source of all that is wondrous, having created the finest in costuming, now looked at his own image in a sword held up by an attendant standing beside him. Holding on to Nandi's arm, Shiva mounted the bull. Magnificent, resembling Mount Kailash, on whose broad back a tiger skin was spread, and who, out of devotion, crouched down to diminish his enormous bulk. And Shiva set out. Circles of light flashing, rings of golden stamens, from earrings swinging to the motion of their chariots, lighting up their faces. The mothers following Shiva seemed to turn the sky into a pool of lotuses. And behind the mothers, who were glowing with the brilliance of burnished gold, shone the dark goddess Kali, adorned with gleaming skulls that looked like a flight of cranes against blue-black clouds, throwing out flashes of branch lightning far ahead. The Ganas who went before the spear-armed lord then raised high the tumultuous sound of auspicious pipes that flooded the high domes of their aerial chariots, announcing to the immortals that it was time to join the procession. The sun of 1,000 rays held above Shiva a new umbrella made by the divine artificer Swatra, whose silken fringe hanging just above his head made him appear as if Ganga were falling down on his hair. Then Ganga and Yamuna both assumed appropriate shapes and served the luminous lord, waving chowries over him that seemed flights of wild geese alighting on themselves, though they had for the time being ceased to be flowing rivers. The first of creators, and that first person beloved of Shri, appeared in person before Shiva, with the words, "Victory be yours." They made his glory blaze more brightly as oblations poured into the fire. Make it blaze higher. A single form divided itself 3 ways, equally, without distinction, of first and last. Shiva above Vishnu, and Vishnu above him. Brahma might stand above these two at times, or the two might be the first creators. The world guardians, headed by oft-invoked Indra, laying aside marks of wealth and sovereignty, and unostentatiously garbed, signaled Nandi to grant them the favor of seeing the Lord. Announced by him, each by name, they then bowed low with palms joined. Shiva greeted the lotus-born with a nod of the head, Vishnu with a word or two, Vrita-slain Indra with a smile, and the rest of the celestials without exception. He welcomed each according to his status, with a mere glance. The 7 sages spoke the benediction before him, preceded by the customary cheer of victory. Smiling, Shiva said, "In this sacrifice that is the rite of marriage now laid out in readiness, I have already appointed you the officiants." As the celestial musicians led by Visvasu, all accompanied players on the lute, gloriously sang the lay of Tripura, the Lord beyond the dark power of change, who wears a digit of the moon on his head, traversed the skies. And with swinging gait his mount bore him across the sky, to the tune of tinkling little golden bells, goring the clouds, tossing his horns time and again, as if he were shaking off the mud clinging to them from budding the banks of rivers in play. as if he were drawn by the golden reins of Shiva's glances. Flying far ahead of him, Nandi arrived in no time at that city protected by the King of Mountains, which had never come under enemy attack. While the townsfolk looked up in wondering curiosity, the luminous lord with neck blue-black as rain clouds descended from the path marked by his one-time mount onto the level ground in the outskirts of the city. The monarch of the mountains, rejoicing at the coming of Shiva, advanced to receive him, with his kinsmen bearing rich gifts and mounted on an array of elephants, as if with his own slopes covered by the trees bursting into bloom. The two parties, immortals and earth supporters, came together at the city gates wide open, like two floods breaking through a single dike, and the tumult spread far out into the distance. As Shiva, who is adored by the three worlds, bowed to him, Himalaya, the earth supporter, was embarrassed, unaware that his own head had already been lowered before the supreme glory of the Lord. With the beauty of his countenance enhanced by happiness, Himalaya led the way, conducting his son-in-law into the heart of his opulent capital, which had its streets strewn ankle-deep with flowers. During that hour, the beautiful women of the city appeared along the rows of great mansions, gripped by a consuming desire to gaze upon the Supreme Lord, and leaving off all other pursuits, acted as follows. A certain woman, hurrying to the round casement window, did not remember to bind her luxuriant mass of hair, flowing loose with its wreath of flowers, slipping down even though she was holding it in her hands. Pulling away her foot still wet with red loxa juice from the hand of the maid holding it. Another woman, giving up the slow, languorous gait, hastened, drawing a line of red footprints up to the lattice window. Yet another woman, having penciled her right eye with rich glossy collyrium, cheated the other side of its share as she hurried just as she was, straight to the window carrying the little collyrium rod in her hand. Failing to tie the loosening knot of her lower garment as she hurried, a woman with her eyes riveted on the lattice of the window held it up with a hand, the luster of the jewels on it entering her navel. While another woman, busy threading a jeweled belt, rose in great haste, though it was only half done. And with each awkward step, the gems ill-knotted kept slipping off until only the thread round her big toe remained. The faces of women vibrant with curiosity, eyes tremulous as bees, mouths enfolding the fragrance of wine, covered the lattices so completely the windows appeared to be decorated with thousand-petaled lotuses. Meantime, the moon-crested lord was riding on the royal highway with its array of high arches and waving pennons, where he made the palace turrets twice as splendid, setting them awash with moonlight even in the day. Drinking him in with their eyes, who was the sole object of all seeing, the women became oblivious of other things, propelling with their whole being the functions of the other senses into their eyes. Is it so very surprising that she, the lady with no leaves, most delicate, should have practiced such hard penances for him, when she who serves him, even as a handmaid, is most blessed? How much more blessed is she who lies in his arms? Supposing the Creator had not brought together this pair endowed with the kind of beauty the whole world most longs for, the effort that he had expended forming them would have been fruitless indeed. Surely it cannot be that the body of the flower-armed god was burned to ashes by Shiva's mounting anger. Having seen the luminous Lord, the god of love, gave up his body, I think, out of shame of his own free will. Now that the King of Mountains, through great good fortune, has formed this kinship with the Lord, which he had wanted with all his heart. He is sure to hold his head already so lofty from his holding up of this earth even higher, my friend. Listening to such comments of the elegant women of Ostiprasta, so sweet to his ears, the three-eyed lord arrived at Himalya's palace, where welcoming showers of parched rice shivered to powder against jeweled armlets. Like the brilliant sun stepping out of an autumnal cloud, Shiva descended from his bull, taking Vishnu's proffered arm, and with lotus-seated Brahma leading the way, he entered the inner halls of the mountain lord's palace. Behind him came the immortals headed by Indra, followed by the highest sages preceded by the seven sages. With the Ganas bringing up the rear, they entered the mountain abode like superb ends after an auspicious beginning. Taking a seat, the Lord accepted the gifts offered by Himalaya with the appropriate mantras, gifts befitting a bridegroom, water with gems, milk and curds blended with honey, and a pair of new silk cloths. Dressed in silks, he was led to his bride by attendants of the inner palace, well trained and deferential, as the ocean with its fringe of gathering foam is led to the shore by the soft rays of the new risen moon. In conjunction with that young girl whose radiant lotus face grew more beautiful, Shiva's lotus-petaled eyes opened wide. The waters of his consciousness shone calm and pellucid. He appeared like the world transfigured by autumn's glow. Their eyes, yearning for each other, met by chance, and startled, then somehow steadied a little, retreated that very moment, shrinking before the compelling force of shyness offered by her mountain father. The Lord of Eight Forms received Uma's hands. Its fingers rose red, the color of burnished copper. The first tender sprout of the form of the Lord of Memories hidden within her body for fear of Shiva. The hairs on Uma's limbs bristling, the fingers of the bull-bannered Lord moist with sweat from the meeting of hands. It seemed the mind-born appeared to divide his attentions equally between bride and groom. When hands join in wedlock, any bride and groom become vested in radiance quite out of the ordinary. What words can be found to describe the splendor born of the nearness to each other of this bridal couple? Joined in wedlock, the bridal pair, stepping sunwise, round the holy fire blazing high, shone like day and night, following each other closely as they circled the edges of Mount Meru. Having guided the bridal pair thrice round the fire, while they kept their eyes shut from the touch of their hands, the family priest instructed the bride to offer rice into the blazing fire. Obedient to the priest's instructions, Uma held her face to the smoke rising fragrant from the rice she had offered with reverence. The crest of the smoke curling against her cheek seemed for a moment a blue lotus adorning her ear. The prescribed ritual of inhalation of smoke caused the bride's cheeks to become a little flushed and moist. The glossy collyrium ran all around her eyes. The barley sprout at her ears wilted. The priest addressed the bride. This holy fire, my child, is the ancient witness to your marriage. Therefore, lead with your Lord a life in accordance with the law, putting away all doubts and disagreements. Shiva's consort drank deeply of these words of the priest, straining her ears almost to the corner of her eyes, as the earth parched by summer's punishing heat drinks greedily of the first rain sent by great Indra. Prompted by her husband, changeless, pleasing to the eye, to look up and view the unchanging pole star, Uma raised her face and in low tones, overcome by shyness, managed somehow to say, "I have seen it." When the wedding ceremony, performed with flawless care by the royal priest expertly accomplished in ritual was completed, the parents of living beings bowed in reverence to the grandfather on his lotus throne. The Creator blessed the bride with the words, "Lady blessed with good fortune, be the mother of heroes." But though he was himself the Lord of Speech, he was speechless, at a loss for words to bless the Lord of Eight Forms. Then the married couple came to the four-sided altar, on which were arranged the ceremonial articles. As they sat on thrones of gold, grains of moist rice were placed on their foreheads, according to custom and desired by all. Lakshmi, goddess of wealth and beauty, held over them by its long, slender stem a lotus umbrella, the web of drops of water clinging to its petals, beautiful as a net of lustrous pearls. Saraswati, the muse, praised the bridal couple with a composition using two separate styles, a style thoughtless and pure for the groom most adorable, and for the bride one easily grasped. For a while they watched a play, in its first performance presented by the Apsaras in graceful mime, in which different dramatic styles were clearly displayed at the several stages of the play, and various moods captured in musical modes. At its conclusion, the immortals lifted their joined palms to touch their diadems, fell at Shiva's feet, who now had a wife, pleading that the five-arrowed god be released from his curse, regain his form, and have his service accepted. All anger spent, the glorious Lord then consented that the god of love's arrows might do their worst even on himself. Success is certain when those who know how things are done approach their masters at the right time with their request. Having dismissed the celestial host, the moon-crested lord, holding the hand of the earth-bearer's daughter, retired to the bridal chamber, where stood a couch beautifully decorated, and brimming jars of gold were placed, and flowers besides, and weapons infused with the power to ward off evil spirits. Bashfulness lent the newlywed Gauri an added charm as she turned her face way when Shiva drew her towards him. When she could barely say a few words, even to her friends who used to sleep beside her, by directing his impish attendants to make funny faces, the Lord made her laugh secretly to herself. Thus ends Canto 7, entitled Umaparinayam, or Uma's Bridal, in the long poem Kumarasambhavam by the illustrious Kalidasa.